Good morning. I want to welcome everyone to our Member Monday, where our presenter today is Kimberlee Barrett-Johnson. And I'm going to read a little bit about Kimberlee and then turn it over to her to do her presentation on setting your course, reaching your destination. Kimberlee Barrett-Johnson, CFP, CDFA, CKA, President of ArkWise Wealth, is a deeply engaged community member and industry leader who for 28 years has helped people navigate the complexities of increasing wealth and achieve work optional lifestyles. Focused on helping others gain increasing clarity, confidence, and contentment around finances, Kimberlee is recognized nationally as a Forbes Top Women Wealth Advisor for 2020, Forbes Best-in-State Wealth Advisor for 2018 and 19, and Working Mother Top Wealth Advisor Mom for 2018 and 2019. So ladies and gentlemen, ladies, okay, all ladies, I would like to introduce to you Kimberlee Barrett-Johnson.
Great. Well, thank you, Andrea. It is such a pleasure to get to be with you today and to talk about how to accomplish financial goals and to gain clarity, especially in this current moment. And our firm is dedicated to helping busy, successful people who want to be wise stewards of their resources make their lives simpler and more rewarding. And our approach is really focused on, as Andrea said, helping people gain greater clarity, confidence, and ultimately contentment in their financial lives. And we've developed a process that we believe helps our clients plan comprehensively, invest wisely, live generously, and then ultimately share vision with those most important to them. And we have a wonderful team here at ArkWise Wealth that serves and helps our clients navigate their financial lives. So what I'd like to do today is to talk about increasing your clarity for financial planning, especially in this current moment where there is a lot of chaos and confusion and uncertainty. And a lot of people have felt almost paralyzed by all that's been going on, not only this health global pandemic storm that we're all in, but a financial storm as well, an economic storm. And so storms on many fronts. And we all may be in different boats, but we're going through this storm together. And one of the things that can help increase clarity is to regain a sense of control. And so while we can't control everything that's going around us in the broader economy, there are a lot of things, a number of things, and we'll talk about them today, that you can do to strengthen and take control of your personal economy. And so that's really where I plan to focus comments. And I was invited to speak for about 15 minutes, and then we'll also have question and answer for about 15 minutes. But I also want to say that we will make available to anyone listening to this, either live or later to the recording. If you have questions that you would like to ask in a more private setting, we are offering a no-cost consultation to anyone who would like to discuss that more confidentially. So all of that available. Well, regardless of whether it's in this particular moment or just in general, the first step in developing a financial plan is to get really clear about what you want to accomplish. And maybe that sounds simple, but a lot of times people have so many competing priorities that they're not really clear on ultimately what it is that they're trying to do. Gaining clarity about that and where your priorities are is the first step. And then from that, understanding where are you in relationship to your goals. And we call that map, creating your current reality map. So for all of us, we have competing priorities. We have things we want to do or experience or accomplish today. And we also have things we want to accomplish for the future. Probably the most common or shared financial goal that I see our clients having is to either accomplish financial independence and security so that they have a work optional lifestyle, which is maybe another way of talking about retirement, but I like that language better than simply talking about retirement, than using the term retirement. And so balancing those competing concerns. And then also once you achieve that work optional, financially secure, independent lifestyle, how do you maintain and increase the strength of that? And so as you think about where you are in relationship, perhaps to that goal or whatever your ultimate goal is, there are often many stages or steps along the way as you make your journey toward that place. And some of those things are things that you can plan for and control. Some of them may be unexpected things that you need to be prepared for, maybe that you hope to avoid, but if they do occur, you want to know that you've got good safety nets and protection plans in place. And so we'll talk about some of those key things of how to prepare for the future. One of my best favorite mentors said, "All progress begins with the truth." And I love that quote. I think it really applies to the financial planning process. So all progress starts with really knowing the reality of where are you in relationship to your broader goals. And that means knowing, what do you own? What do you owe? What's your income? What are your expenses? What kinds of insurance or protection plans do you have in place? What do you need to have in place? What kind of legal documents should you have or do you have? Are they up to date? And what tax considerations may apply to your situation? And so all of those things in the context of what you're trying to accomplish are really what we mean when we talk about big picture financial planning. It's taking all of those different aspects of your life into account and then helping you make wise and smart decisions as you go along and have the need or opportunity to make choices. So how will you accomplish what you want to accomplish? How will you be brilliant? And although there are commonalities, everybody has a unique journey, a unique path. Your priorities and values and goals are going to be specific to you. And even things like, what is your risk tolerance, or what is your time frame, or who are the key people in your life that you need to take into consideration as you make your plans. All of that is very customized. And so we really focus on customizing our financial planning and coaching and process to each individual and each family that we work with. As I mentioned earlier, also, I want to help you think about what can you control. Certainly there are a lot of things in the broader economy that are outside of our individual control, but there are a lot of things with your personal economy that you can control. And that's where I want to focus our attention today. So as we think about navigating that road ahead, there are concerns for today and there are things for tomorrow. And wherever you are on your journey towards financial independence and security, whether you're already there or whether you're midway along, whether you're making strong progress or you've experienced some setbacks, there are things that you can do that will strengthen where you're at right now. And that's where we want to focus our attention, is on the things that you can actually do. And I think restoring that sense of agency and control, and even thinking in the current environment about how can we make this work for us. Anne and I were talking a little bit earlier just about, there are things that we will experience coming out of this experience as a community that I think are gonna make us stronger and more nimble, more able to do more things. How can that be true when you think about your financial life? And I think there are some things that right now we can really take advantage of, particularly some of the unique tax aspects that are available this year. But even from an investment perspective, there are some real opportunities right now. So let's talk specifically about what some of those things are. And I'll just start by talking a little bit about cash reserves. So what is a cash reserve? A cash reserve is someplace where you are keeping 2 to 6 months of your expenses. So that's the industry standard, 2 to 6 months of your regular expenses, someplace safe and secure, like a checking or a savings account, money market, short-term certificates. You're not looking to make that money work hard for you. You just want it to be accessible and secure. And its purpose really is to help you be prepared either for opportunities that might arise or to be able to navigate through an emergency. I've had a couple of clients say, hey, I've got some cash, where are the best opportunities right now? Are there investments that are cheap, that would make sense to invest in currently? And while I love the direction and the thinking behind that question, I don't think it makes sense to draw down cash reserves below recommended levels. I think we're likely to see continued volatility, and there may be continued challenges that people face. And so maintaining appropriate cash reserves or building them up is appropriate. So if your cash reserve is not exactly where you feel like it needs to be, a lot of people are finding right now that expenses are a little lower than typical. Why? Because we're all going through this enforced austerity right now, right? We're not eating out as much. We're not able to go to entertainment venues. We're traveling less. And so if you're like a lot of our clients, you're seeing things accumulate a little bit more in your checking or savings account, perhaps. And if that's the case, that can be a good time to evaluate how much do I need to keep in cash? Do I have enough in cash reserves? And if I have more than enough there, then I can think about how do I deploy those dollars to work harder for me. It's also a great time to think about not only maybe sort of against our normal inclinations or plans, are we spending less, but are there things that you can do to restructure debt, for instance, that would improve your cash flow? And in particular right now, you've probably heard or noticed interest rates are extremely low. And as a result of that, this is a great time to think about refinancing debt. We've had a number of clients who are able to refinance their mortgage, and that has been extremely helpful. So even if you already have a pretty low interest rate on a mortgage, if you're going to be in your home for 3 years or more, you may find that right now you can get an interest rate under 3%, which is, well, I've just never seen that until now in my whole career. It's pretty amazing. And so the opportunity to perhaps restructure longer term debt can be very favorable. Of course, you want to take into account the costs associated with it and make sure that you do plan to stay in your home and that the balance you have remaining on your mortgage, it makes sense to do that. But right now, refinancing can be attractive for many people. The other thing are tax strategies this year. There are some really unique things about this year that, depending on where you're at in your sort of journey through life and your journey through your financial life, can be particularly appropriate. So for almost everyone, if you have after-tax investments, you may be able to benefit from tax loss harvesting. Tax loss harvesting. And that simply means selling things that have declined in value and capturing the tax loss. You don't want to lock in your losses, so you would want to sell something that's declined and buy something else that also has strong recovery potential. But the idea would be to capture that tax loss or harvest it now so that you can use it either against your regular income up to $3,000 or against other gains that you may have from other situations or in the future. So tax loss harvesting, definitely a good time to look at the portfolio and see where is there opportunity. Can we shift from this thing that's declined over to this other thing that we also think has declined and has great recovery potential, and harvest a tax loss. Other options this year are, there's a tax holiday going on for anyone who normally would have to take a required minimum distribution. That's anyone over age 72 who's required to take distributions out of their retirement plans or IRAs. They have a holiday this year. They don't have to take it, and they never have to make it up. That is unique. Never seen that before, and it's a great opportunity. You want to make sure that you're aware of those that you care about are aware of. Paired with that, then, if you don't have to take income out and pay taxes on it, does that put you in a lower tax bracket? If it does, this could be a good year for something called a Roth conversion. And a Roth conversion is simply where you take money that would otherwise be taxable when you take it out, like a traditional IRA or retirement plan, and you may be able to convert it to Roth status. Roth status means that it's going to grow tax-free from that point. It's never subject to required distributions in the future, and it can transfer to your heirs or to your family tax-free as well. How do you get it to that more favorable status? You pay the tax on it now. When is the right time to think about a Roth conversion? Well, if your income is lower, so maybe it's lower because you aren't subject to those required minimum distribution requirements this year, and or when the investment themselves are lower. So if you have investments that have declined inside of an IRA, maybe it's a smart time to convert, pay the tax on it now while it's depressed, and let that recovery happen tax-free inside the Roth IRA. Roth conversions, big topic, just something I wanted to raise to your awareness. And then the final thing I'll say about tax strategies and planning is that if you or people that you know have gone through a jobs transition or are out of work right now, there are special rules this year for accessing IRAs or retirement plan assets, even if you're under age 59 and a half without penalty, if it's related in some way to what's happened with COVID. And there is a longer time frame for putting those monies back. So usually you have a pretty short time period to put money back that you might take out. This year you can take money out, not pay the tax penalty, and you have a larger time period, almost 2 years, to put the money back. So hopefully it doesn't disrail your long-term financial security, but simply you've got more flexibility to navigate through the situation. And again, whether that, so more details about that, and there are some complexities, so don't just take action based on what you've heard today, but it might be something to look into further, either for yourself or someone that you know if they are experiencing a job transition, that there are some unique rules from a tax perspective. All right, cool. So next, after taxes, let's talk a little bit about investments. So you all know that with real estate, it's location, location, location. And with investments, it's diversification, diversification, diversification. I've got a cute example here that shows you have just one pane and it gets broken, you know, you got to replace this whole great big thing. You've destroyed the whole thing. If it's 4 panes and one of them gets broken, all right, you've got to replace one. You've got it even further diversified here, 16 panes and one of them gets broken. That's not such a big deal. So you want to diversify with your investments, and you want to rebalance periodically. All right, so we all understand about diversification and the importance of that. And what's tricky in a time period like what we've been through is that sometimes when a big storm like this global pandemic comes through, everything gets affected. There aren't very many investments that aren't affected by that, but there are some. And of course, those of you who have been investing have noticed that while things declined pretty sharply in March, we've seen a lot of recovery since then. So this is a really smart time to reevaluate. What is my risk tolerance? Do I want to take some risk off the table now that things have recovered somewhat? How am I diversified? Does it make sense right now to rebalance? And rebalancing is something that makes a lot of intellectual sense, but it's counterintuitive and it's sometimes hard to do if you don't have someone helping you do it. Rebalancing simply means if you have an ideal asset allocation, let's say between your stocks, your bonds, your cash, your alternatives, and alternatives are simply things that don't correlate to stocks and bonds, and you had that ideal asset allocation and now things are different, rebalancing back to your ideal percentage in each of those categories. And what that may mean is selling some things that have held up well and buying more of some of the things that have declined. Counterintuitive, but over time, that actually helps improve your returns and it reduces volatility. So really good to do. A couple of other things that can help you take advantage of volatility. Some of these may be things that you are already doing. If you are saving systematically into an investment, so like through an employer retirement plan is often something people do where they're dollar cost averaging, or into your own investment portfolio, where you're saving the same amount each month, you're automatically doing this dollar cost averaging strategy, where when the investment is high, you buy less of it. When it goes down, you buy more of it. And over time, it makes you a really smart investor. It means that as you are investing systematically and saving over time, you buy more of things when they're cheap, you buy less of them when they're expensive. And so over time, your average cost of that investment is less than the average price of the investment. It's not a guaranteed way of making money, but it works pretty effectively for most people. And then one more strategy from the investment perspective that can help you take advantage of volatility, in addition to dollar cost averaging and rebalancing, is to think about strategies that are really that do even better in a volatile circumstance. One of those is a covered call strategy. That's a little bit complex, but I'll just say briefly what it involves is you own an investment, you sell someone else the right to buy it from you in the future. For doing that, you get paid up front today, as well as you will sell the investment in the future if it has gone up. But how much you get paid up front today is substantially higher in a volatile environment. And that's what we're seeing right now. So the premium, what you get paid guaranteed up front, is higher in this current environment. So covered call strategies can be a way to take advantage of volatility and make your investment strategy work better for you. And that's something you can talk to your investment manager about, or to us about if you have more questions later. All right, great. So our next topic for things that you can do right now, you know, with this health crisis, a lot of people are more aware of their own mortality. And so it's a good time to take a look at your insurances and your estate plans and make sure that your affairs are in order. And that can involve making sure that the amount of insurances that you have are appropriate. I've just done this recently for myself. And although life insurance companies, for instance, do have some new rules in place for how they underwrite during this global pandemic, they are still underwriting new insurance policies. And I just had a term life insurance policy expire. The cost went up for the new period. And so I'm reapplying to get a new term in place with, you know, wellness, with health underwriting. And they sent a medical technician out to my home actually just on Saturday to take some physical measures and go through that process. What's different right now is that it used to be you could go ahead and pay the premium up front and have conditional receipt of insurance in place from that moment. They are no longer offering that. They are still offering insurance and taking it through an underwriting process. They just ask more questions about COVID. So it's not impossible to get or to apply for right now. And this is also a good time to take a look at your legal documents and make sure that you have a will, power of attorney, medical power of attorney, and living will. A lot of the estate planning attorneys I know have said that they initially were a lot busier than usual, but they're starting to have some time where they can work with new people, and this is a great time to take a look at that and make sure that your documents are in order. Not only your legal documents, but sometimes we talk about your loving documents as well, and the way that you create a legacy for your family. You know, not only those legal things, but maybe having communication of your family history, of your personal story, your wishes and hopes for your family. There's not a place for that in legal documents, but having something that might accompany them, and that's sometimes referred to as an ethical will or a loving document. All right, as you invest, of course, you would like to do that in alignment with your values. The way that you create your legacy is not just what you leave your family, but how you live your life. And that can also translate into how you invest. And something that we are really pleased to be able to help our clients with is to invest in alignment with their values. That's getting easier and easier these days. More and more, there are more and more opportunities to invest with an ESG approach. And ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance standards that companies are indicating that they're meeting. And that, I think, helps us make our money in ways that we can be proud that we're profiting from and not unhappy with. So I commend that as well as part of how you think about how you live out your legacy. All right, bringing all of that together. So we've talked about some things that you can be doing today to strengthen your financial picture in the current moment, not being paralyzed, but taking control, having agency, and taking some concrete actions to improve your financial situation. I think in light of that, it's also really helpful to reproject and see, you know, given the volatility, given where we're at right now, given maybe changes in your own priorities and perception, how are you positioned relative to your long-term goals? And as we've been able to reproject with clients and help them see, they're still on pace, they're still in good shape for the long term. I think it does reduce a lot of stress and enable you to feel more confident and free to make good decisions today. And so I will just encourage that longer term approach as you think about the short term as well. Those are the main things I wanted to make sure that I sort of set up for us, and I'd like to open it up for questions now. I will just reiterate again that we are offering a no-cost consultation if you have questions that you'd prefer to ask in a more confidential environment. And I'm also very happy to take questions right now, and there's the contact information for the person on our team who organizes those if you'd like to reach out to her. So open for questions.
Kimberlee, are you all doing these virtually or in person?
Yes, still virtually. I think we're going to be in virtual world for a while. I think we're able to do it virtually, and that's just the more cautious approach to take to protect our team and to protect the people that we're interacting with. And so I do recognize there's something that we lose in that in-person interaction, but we can do a lot virtually. And so we are usually doing those through a WebEx communication. So we can see each other, we can see documents that we might be sharing, but it's typically virtual. Yeah, great question.
Kimberlee, the tax loss harvesting.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give an example of how that works? I need to see some sort of a picture in my head on that.
Yeah, so your tax loss harvesting has to do with what your cost basis is. So this does not apply to any investment that's inside of an IRA, whether it's a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, but it would be in an after-tax investment. And in any after-tax investment, you have a cost basis in that investment. That's typically going to be what you paid for the investment, plus any reinvested gains or dividends that you've already paid the tax on. That's your cost basis. And if that investment has declined below the cost basis, so let's say it's depressed as a result of all the uncertainty and the changes that have occurred, you could sell that below your cost basis and harvest that loss. And that means you now have a loss that you can use against other gains from other investments that have had a gain, either now or in the future. Or if you don't have other investments, say this year, that have had gains that you're going to match that up against, you can actually take up to $3,000 of loss and apply it directly against your other income, whether that's income from Social Security or pensions or earned income, and simply not have to pay the tax on your earned income as a result of harvesting that loss. So thinking about, are there places where you could capture that tax loss without locking in a loss in your portfolio? So I'm not talking about locking in losses, I'm talking about being strategic, selling something that's depressed, buying something else that would have similar recovery or growth opportunities from where it is right now, but being strategic about using that tax benefit right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
I have a couple of questions. One is that I've always sort of been curious about your field and how a client how what you do would relate to an attorney or an accountant or a broker, and how, like, what exactly are your services? Are they primarily advisory, or do you sometimes work with some of those other people? And the second question is, I think a lot of people, probably most people that I know, are concerned that they have not done enough to prepare for the future. And if you're meeting with somebody who feels that way, how can they get started? How can they potentially catch up to where they should be?
Yeah, those are both great questions. So thanks. So first of all, our services, we absolutely coordinate and collaborate quite a bit with attorneys and CPAs. So we don't do tax returns, but we think really strategically about tax strategy and coordinate with our clients' tax advisors. And similarly with estate planning, we don't create legal documents, but we will review or look at, from a layperson's perspective, any legal documents that our clients currently have, and help make sure that there's good coordination between ownerships and beneficiary arrangements and what those legal documents are designed to do, and coordinate with their attorney on that to make sure that there's good alignment. Sometimes people will have spent a fair amount of money creating a really nice estate plan, and their legal documents are beautiful, but because it's not well integrated with their ownerships and their beneficiary arrangements on their investments or other things that they own, their assets, the legal documents don't end up accomplishing what they were designed to do. So we play a really pretty critical role in helping make sure that that correlation and connection is in place. So our key services are financial planning, which is advisory, sort of coaching on financial issues and analyzing and illustrating and projecting out various things so our clients can evaluate the financial implications or outcomes of different decisions they might make. And there's a cost for that. We typically quote a cost for doing that initial work. There are two phases. So there's the initial phase of like getting everybody, getting your financial house completely in order. And then there's an ongoing phase where we continue to work with you over time. And then the other key service that we provide is investment management. We also offer, we offer insurance products and other things, but mainly it's investment management. And we often do that as well on a fee basis. So we will charge a percentage of the portfolio that we're advising on or managing. And we do that primarily just because we think it's a very transparent way to give people advice and manage money for them. And it avoids the potential conflict of interest that a more commission-based approach could take. So we have some flexibility and variety of options there in terms of investment services. Yeah, so those are our key services. And then your other question was, you're absolutely right. A lot of times people come to us and they say, I should have done this a decade ago, or, I feel badly that I'm not further along. I think it's not uncommon for people to almost experience a sense of shame about their financial lives, but that is pretty common. Almost everybody feels like they coulda, shoulda, woulda done more earlier, sooner, better. But it's never too late to get started. And a lot of people end up working with us for the first time in their 50s, sometimes even 60s, because they were focused on other parts of their life prior to that. And people get pretty serious though about planning for retirement. Usually when they get about 10 to 15 years out, they want to make sure that they're in good shape for that. That said, I love it when we have younger clients coming in and saying, what can I do right now? To really put myself in the position where I'm making smart decisions all along the way. So it's not too late and it's not too early to get started with financial planning. Yeah, it can make a difference.
Thanks.